we're going to talk about some Whoppers, so stick around. I've got something for everyone. Hang on. Put my second hat after all.
You're wearing two hats, Frank?
Airline flighting.
We have a 4-hour delay.
Hey, we're here at the beach talking about retire early lifestyle and everything that affects it, especially since 2020, but even before then. We've been abroad 12 years. We're a homeschooling, homesteading family that has become world travelers, and we're in Mexico at the beach today with our, and it's July, with our long sleeve jackets. Historically, only around 10, and I don't remember the exact figure, only around 10 or 20% of Americans have historically had a passport. Now, part of the reason is because, like, when we traveled in the 80s, you could, back in the 80s, travel with just a birth certificate and a driver license. Things have just changed all the way around. And so more and more people have had to have a passport. And so I think that historically, people could even go to the Caribbean. So there was this thing where people, Americans, could go to an awful lot of places. You know, they could go to the Caribbean, they could go to, you know, on vacations, they could go to Mexico and not really need a passport. But the last couple of decades, it's just been passport all the way. And part of that is because a passport is easier to control. But that figure of 10 to 20% of Americans has now, according to this report, become closer to like 47% of Americans are now getting their passports. And of course, you know, there are many reasons for it. I mean, one of the reasons is just the retire abroad media and magazine blow up and all of the competitors that have come on the scene. It used to be only one of them and then 2 or 3 other major competitors, and they have become huge industries. And I mean, you can't go very far at all on the internet, on YouTube or anywhere, without seeing all kinds of promotion for travel and how wonderful it is to retire abroad and move abroad. And it's become a thing, it's mainstream. And so that's one of the things that has propelled that. And we're one of those people. We've been abroad 12 years. We spent 8 years in Ecuador. Similarly to that issue, people are now seeing a huge backup and a huge slowdown in processing times, Americans that is, just to get their passports. And don't you hate it when everything is blamed on the C word? You know, since 2020, the C word, everything is blamed on that. But for those of us that do historical research, which it's been my hobby to be a historical researcher, and specifically as it relates to biblical historical research. And one of the things I happen to know from my research is that when communists go full time, when they just go ahead and take over, as opposed to being there in the background and being stealthy about their communism and trying to sneak it in little by little, incrementalism, you know, over a period of time, a very long time horizon where people just are, you know, not noticing. It seems to me it really is a convenient scapegoat to blame it on the C word. The fact is that historically, communists aren't really good at getting anything accomplished except for destruction and mayhem. That's historical, it's not an opinion. And I've made wisecracks before about, you know, people that have maybe learned their history from college, you know, are bound to repeat it. I've been to college, I went to college. It's not an insult to people that went to college. But a lot of the institutions almost all the institutions this day and age have been corrupted and have been infiltrated. And so a lot of young folks actually think that this communism thing is actually a thing. And it's like you put an ism at the end of something to make it sound as if there's something to it. What it comes down to is just a bunch of thieves and robbers that don't really have the skill or the wherewithal, the desire to actually accomplish anything. Think about it. What does a thief and a robber actually accomplish other than stealing and accumulating the things that have been stolen? Usually, money, easy come, easy go. Usually, those kinds of situations, the money comes in, money goes back out, and nothing is ever accomplished. And so it seems to me that if we were to raise our awareness antenna, we would realize that really there's an awful lot of things in a society that is being encroached upon, and I say is being encroached upon very carefully, because typically what happens is the society is being propagandized stealthily and over a period of time, and they don't realize because they took their eye off of the light. They dimmed the lights and couldn't see. They got distracted from one thing or another and couldn't see what was happening. But a lot of people have turned the lights back on. They're like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? No, you don't. I'm on to you. I know what you're doing. It ain't gonna happen. And so we have these excuses being made that, oh, because of the C word, people were laid off in government, and therefore we don't have enough manpower. We'll just hire them back then. Everything's being blamed on the C word. Oh, it's because of C. That's why this is happening. This is why instead of waiting the 8 weeks for your passport renewal, now you have to wait 6 months or a year or 2 years. It's because of the C thing. What do you think about that? You believe that? I mean, what's so hard about that? Right? If that was the real thing. But that isn't the real thing, because monies are being diverted to other places. Speaking of money, on to the next whopper. Taxpayer money, which we were just talking about, expounding on the idea of monies being diverted and abused. Taxpayer money, according to this report, was funneled through the UK foreign offices. It's just a department of the government that deals with foreign issues, and this is a way to launder money for even governments and banks, to fund an outfit called Global Disinformation Index, right, which supplies advertisers, listen to this, with blacklists, which we were talking about in the other video, how unelected people formed these companies, organizations, and gave them fancy names and started making rules for people, and then and for countries. And if these countries, if you don't go along, we're going to blacklist you. So this is the MO of the communists. They're going to blacklist conservative websites with the intention of having their monetization revoked. Now you may think, yeah, whatever, that's their problem. But this is how the game of incrementalism is played. This is how a cancer cell sneaks in, a bad bug sneak into your body and only attack a few bugs at a time. If they're asexual, they're amoebas and they separate asexually without copulating. And so they can do this over and over without a female, and they can just do this and reproduce. And after a while, you don't realize you're infested with these things. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, like that. And pretty soon, You know, all of those defending cells that thought they were only dealing with a couple of malignant cells are now being overrun and overwhelmed by millions and millions if this issue isn't taken care of. But this is how the game of incrementalism is played. And it's just saying that, and listen to it, taxpayer money. This is significant because this isn't money that's coming out of a hat or out of thin air or just printed up. It's, you know, whoever is that the taxpayer is funding this communist activity against their neighbors. And now you can see why it's important for the communists
Against themselves.
to put people and pit people against one another, because if they didn't do that, the incrementalism like this wouldn't work, because we would love one another as our neighbors and we would come to each other's defense and we wouldn't allow this. But when they, you know, a divided household cannot stand, right? And so when they divide us, they conquer us. And so because they divide us, then they get to say that they're just going to blacklist this particular group. That way the other groups just go to sleep and think, well, that's that group, we don't care about them, we don't like them, or whatever it is the case may be. And once you're done with them, though, you're next. It isn't funny. It's just that, you know, this whole shenanigan, this whole incremental communist game, which is a deadly game, it's a serious deadly game, is being played against you and me and every one of us. Every one of the people that think that they're going to align with the other side that isn't being blacklisted at the moment is simply just buying a little bit of time until the clock starts, the pendulum starts swinging back towards your group of people. And we've seen this happen, where at first the feminists believed that it was all about equal rights, and slowly but surely now it doesn't even matter anymore. And all of a sudden, do you notice how the feminists don't speak up and protect, because they have been bred for so long, at least a couple of generations, to hate other groups. Now feminism is being used against them to say, well, what is a woman? You know, and it's like everything about, and it's like everything, and I mean, whether it's race, feminism, the woman, the race, the color, the this, the that, everything, it's all a big game to divide and conquer. Don't you see it, folks? What do you think about that? Is that too serious? Is that getting, that's what's happening. You know, and this is taxpayer money that's being funded to that. Think about that for a moment. When we say we want to make America great again, what we want to do is we want to make America great again. And how do you make America great again?
The people need to be great again.
When we keep funding a death cult and communism. How does a nation become great again? When they keep funding evil. Explain that to me.
Exactly.
Hey, please, somebody in the comments tell me how you get something good out of funding something bad. I really would like to hear your explanation of that. Anyway, we're getting too serious. Moving on to the next whopper. Thanks for coming to our videos, and have a wonderful day.